First and foremost, this is a venture um, that Jeff and I have been talking about. And in the midst of COVID-19, in the midst of the aftermath of George Floyd's murder, Breonna Taylor's murder, and her killers are still at large, we thought about putting together an opportunity where we just have conversations. And we're going to call this Brothers with Degrees because Lil Wayne had 500, Juvie had 400, and we got degrees. So we brothers with degrees too. So, but usually this is a sacred place. Usually we'd rather, and of course this is post COVID-19, so we are socially distancing. I'm at home alone. Jeff is socially distanced. So I'm in my playroom, the boom boom room, the undercover Shake Shack.
And as you can see from the pictures behind me, it's not really a Shake Shack or a boom boom room. And we live like up the street from each other and we're still being socially distant. Take note.
So really what we're doing is we've decided to invite the world into a sacred place. And that's the conversations that brothers have at times where we open up and we talk, we share, but we also are starting this with the hopes that we might even have guests, and someday we might go live and invite y'all over to our place. So the reality is that we're just gonna have a conversation, and we're gonna try to do this every now and again. We ain't big into marketing and stuff. We really want y'all to get a drink, get a cigar, and join us. And then, when you see us, or if you want to text us or email us or Facebook message us something you think, then we'll definitely see it here and think about it, and we'll use it as we go forward. So that's what we're doing. This is Brothers with Degrees. Dr. Jeff Benjamin, Dr. Brian Turner.
Episode 1, how did we get here? So look, I think that Brian said it best. In the midst of the pandemic and George Floyd's murder, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor, I think that collectively as a Black community, we have felt a sense of heaviness in regards to coping with this pandemic, and then these essentially hate crimes that have been committed, on television, that we've seen video after video after video for. So this space was kind of dedicated for us to kind of hash some of these things out with one another and in front of you all. I know that sometimes, you aren't invited, like you may not be invited to the cookout, but this is your like little sneak peek in. I think that during this time, and Brian, you can rock with me on this, that you've really put a value on what's important to you. So some of these times, some things like going out and doing some of these things, aren't really as appealing anymore. It's really about being safe and staying safe. And the collective feeling of that and the whole world is that, one, we're trying to avoid this pandemic, and then two, during this pandemic, we've seen these acts committed against Black people, and it's been in the media and looked at from the lens. I've seen and Brian, I've actually seen the media cycle like flip. And I think because I was so busy running around hustling and bustling, that I never, and it's also like who I surround myself with and who my friends are, and like the type of news shows I'm watching, to where, I've seen the news like depicted this way, but because I've been sitting down and like taking this all in, I've seen it flip, and I've seen I've seen that America has seen that Black people are treated grossly unfair. And one of the incidents that rings out in my mind the most is when they had this militia take up arms and go to the state capitol because they were demanding haircuts. And these people were not harmed, condemned, or anything in the media. They were fighting for their rights and their right to move about the city and get haircuts. And then you have the protest outbreak, the outbreak of protest for these murders, and the media flipped that narrative on its head, saying that these people are bad people, looting and rioting, and stuff like that, when they were the ones that were really out to get justice. So just feeling that feeling and hearing that narrative, and seeing that narrative has really taken a toll on me throughout this whole time period. This has allowed you a lot of time to just kind of sit and reflect on what things are, and hopefully what they will become in the future. Ryan, what are your thoughts like on your feelings, and like how you've been handling this?
So, part of this too, we also have to introduce ourselves to those who don't know, but I think for the most part, the world knows this. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and a associate professor at Xavier. So my lens is colored by both my personal experiences, but also my professional roles and identities. So when I think about what's going on, and really one of the major components of where we are is really the fact that um, every generation has had to live through and endure some type of major shift, right? And at 42 years of age, I've been wondering what that shift would be in my life,
Uh,
you know? So here it is,
yeah,
and as I've said to some folks, to me, where we are right now is George Floyd is our Emmett Till,
yeah,
and he brings the light and what we must bear in terms of how do we address something that has stained America from its beginning. And so honestly, I think for me, man, I've been preparing for this really since I was younger, through going to school, through growing up, through my graduate work. I literally have been wondering what is it that I might have to deal with in my life that 50 years from now they'll be reading in a textbook as the major shift in how people live, how America is viewed. And so my thoughts is really honestly, here it is. And we must prepare. So, as we sit and we're now debating on this day, um, whether kids go back to school in the midst of a pandemic, how that happens, what should they do? We're debating the very lives of those that we love. And, we have to think about what role are we going to play? What exactly are we going to do? And are we going to sit back and are we going to simply wait? You know, 2 days ago now, the death of a 9-year-old boy in New Orleans who was killed due to probably something senseless as we wait to find out more. You know,
mhm,
we continue to have the normal everyday endemic stuff, but in the midst of a pandemic, right? So the endemic stuff is the stuff we have to deal with anyway, right? We all have to make sure we eat. We all have to make sure our bills are paid for. So what do we do in the midst of the pandemic? So my
yeah,
big thought is a question that I ask my students who take my black psych class all the time is what are we going to do differently now? We know what happens when one person's house is burning in a neighborhood. We can assist them. The fire department comes, their insurance company helps to pay for it. But what happens when the whole neighborhood is burning? What happens when the whole city's burning? So now we have to really think about how do we change our lives? What do they do? Are we going to have to wear masks reliably for the future until we're sure what's going on? How are we going to live? How are we going to engage? And especially from an interactional standpoint, as a psychologist, humans crave connection. How do we redefine connection at this point? So as we move to our big topic for the season that we're going to carry, I think in the midst of what you asked me, the idea is just that. So my question to you, Jeff, is how did we get here as a people? How did not just Jeff and I get
yeah.
here, but let's move to the topic for the day and for the season. How did we get here?
I mean, I think historically, when you hit a reference spot on when you were talking about letting what happens when the neighborhood burns or a city burns. I think that if you were a person of color in America, they just let your city burn. They let your neighborhood burn. In some instances, like in Tulsa, they set your neighborhood on fire.
What about in Philadelphia?
Say it again.
What about in Philadelphia where they bombed the city block because black people didn't want to do what the police wanted?
Right. So, we've been historically as a people, like we've been rebelling and then met with an even bigger show of force, that startles us and puts us, it moves us back a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And I think that, historically, when you look at some of the systemic things that has brought us to this point, when you talk about not having access to capital, not being able to walk in the bank and get a loan for a home, or specifically putting African, like, poor so poor African American people in specific locations and then calling that the ghetto. You know what I'm saying? Where you've limited what we've had access to and what we've been able to see. Me and you always talk about this. You need three things in the world to survive. You need access, opportunity, and information. And if you don't have all three, then you're not gonna you might be able to survive, but you're not going to thrive. And I think America has set up the system to where they'll give you two, but they hide the one.
And think about that, right? If you have a chair that has three legs, that's pretty stable. Of course, I would want a chair with four legs, right? I'm a bigger guy.
Right.
But two-legged stool can stand. And in many situations, you can manage to stand if you have a two-legged chair. But if you have a one-legged chair, that doesn't really go for, right? That's going to wobble. And for the most part, when we talk about African Americans in America, we've been wobbling for a while. Whether you have access, information, or opportunity, because all too often the system is set up to cripple some of those things that we need, right? So
And look,
yes,
we've made it work on a wobbly chair that people forget that the chair is wobbling. We just have really dope balance.
yeah, true. And the problem with that is after a time, though, your body becomes conditioned to be in a stress position. And you can't be in a stress position for too long because over time, that's going to do what to you? Stress you out.
Break you down. You have children, you're going to pass that stress on to your children.
Let me give a shout out to CJ. He may not be watching, but there's some of that good Alabama uh, lightning.
No, I'm straight Uncle Nearest right now.
I need
Got
to get
Tennessee whiskey.
this Alabama lightning is great. So just want to say that's keeping me calm because that's something else we have to be mindful of as well. Is that we have to have healthy coping habits, right? So
Yeah.
somebody they having too much to drink or smoking is unhealthy, but everything in moderation. So that's another part of our evening, right? We want people to be relaxed and have this conversation. We want people to come and check it out, and then we'll flow through. So back to what you were saying, brother Jeff. So yeah, this three-legged stool that we supposed to get, but we get it home and we find it ain't got but one leg or maybe two, right?
We ain't got enough gas to take it back.
That's problematic, bro.
Yeah. So when you have the lack of these things, it puts us at a deficit model throughout our time here in America. So for the longest, the people with money, power, and access, they've been okay. But I think now, and this is what I hope. So I hope that like we're like I'm all for a good protest and like a little mini show riot and show of defiance and all that stuff. Sometimes I believe in violence. You know what I'm saying? Jay-Z said people don't get the picture until the weapon is drawn.
Yep.
I understand that. But I'm hoping that we're able to move past this protest and actually get some concrete policies, some concrete access, some concrete funding to like HBCUs, black businesses, and stuff like that. Because we're in an age where all of that stuff is needed. Like they've slowly taken away well, I don't even really know if there ever was a black middle class. I don't know if I was, like that might have been before my time, but
Well,
they
let's
moved
let,
the
let's
goalposts so many times.
well, we ain't got to debate the economics. Let's just say that we know that African Americans in this country, as well as all other people, right? We don't have to be so direct to just African Americans. Since we're gonna speak broadly for how do we get here, we know that our country has been stained by two things: slavery and the perversion of capitalism, right? Slavery perverted this country because it allowed one group of people, and that's not all white people, some black people in that group, to think that they're simply better than others,
Mhm.
right? And then what that leads to is this perversion of capitalism, because capitalism is not a system where you can just screw people and make whatever money you want. See, capitalism is actually defined by the ability for you to make a product and make as much money and capital off of it as possible, as long as your product is not harming the whole of society. But when
Yeah,
we've got to this point where if Jeff makes a shoe and I make a shoe, but I decide to lie, cheat, and use, poor labor and, slave labor, and I get to, exploit that, the system is supposed to correct that. But what's happened in America, unfortunately, is that we've become okay with the fact that as long as I'm getting my money, as long as I'm catching the bag, as long as I'm getting this paper, it's okay. But if we're going to be honest about what should be happening, is that we should be able to call people out when they're not doing right by society, when they're not doing right by the community, right? So we know that, and this is not going to be something where we hope to create tension by others, but we're going to use facts. We're going to use relevant information. We're not doing no conspiracy theories, because that actually, to me, is what has actually destroyed the Black community. We got too many conspiracy theories and conspiracy theorists that perpetuate ideas and thoughts that ain't got shit to do with what's really going on.
everybody watched Undercover Brother and fell in love with Dave Chappelle's character and was like,
Right,
yeah, you do that.
right, right. So if we're going to actually make some changes, we're going to talk about how we got here. We're going to also talk about something that's important: is how do we get out of here, right?
Yeah,
Um, so pumping on what you said, bro, about how we got here, right, and playing with that idea of slavery and capitalism. I think that's why in so many ways we stuck or get stuck as African Americans. And one of the things that I've been struggling with, and I can speak to this in a very minute way, but when I have clients who they don't talk about the fact that so many people have gotten to the point where they have no kind of emotional connection to society anymore. And it's not anarchy, right? It's not the idea that we're just going to bearing it down. It's that I'm gonna get whatever I want, however I want.
yeah. Well, I think that's the will to like not only survive and thrive. A lot of our actions are pushed by our socioeconomic position. You know what I'm saying? So it's determined. I think a lot of teachers right now, if they like in the talk about opening schools, if they didn't have to come back to school, that like they'd be like, all right, well, whatever. But people feel like they have to. But people that their livelihood is tied to that job,
Man,
right?
look, wait, be funny about school. You remember in the Jetsons? How did Elroy Jetson go to school?
Oh, with the little pod, I was just talking about that. Like, I want a pod in my like. If you're gonna make me go to school, give me a pod.
Yeah, but also if he wasn't at school, how did he go to school, Jeff? On the computer.
Yeah,
Now we got to figure out a way to get stuff to the house from the schoolhouse or from the teacher that the kids need,
yeah,
right? But that's a good example. So once again, we're also in the age of innovation. And see, that's one of the things I'm gonna be honest about people of color, Black people, is that especially in America, innovation has been the key to progress. And
yeah,
one of the things that I have to say, look, innovation is not some tennis shoes. It's not some spinning rims. Innovation is not a Hermes belt. See, we're back to the point where we got to figure out how to get out of this. So one of the points I'm gonna make, and I'm gonna say this loud and clear, it's about to be well, it is election season because this is a presidential year, right?
yeah,
So
for
one of
sure.
the things that I'm urging all African Americans to tell elected officials, I'm urging any political organizations, anybody involved in politics, tell Black elected officials and anybody else who you think needs to understand where you stand is this: they have to use their platform and their position as a bully pulpit. So if you're a judge, if you're a DA, if you're a council member, if you're a state legislator, if you're a state senator, use your position to bully what the hell is going on. You have got to speak out about it. So if you're a judge, you know what's going on when you got people who come before you and their education is not intact. And when people have mental health issues, when people have economic issues, you can no longer, especially Black elected officials. See, Dr. King said a while ago, one of his last books, that the problem in the Black community was going to be that we were no longer going to be able to understand what Black elected officials stood. Are they going to the system to represent the community, or were they coming back from wherever they was at to represent the system? And we got to call it out. So when we talk about how did we get here, it's because we've allowed Black elected officials all too often to sit in their silos and go on their vacations and go places and just live it up.
But before I got really got into politics, I think
we really don't do politics though.
No, I'm just saying I'm a student of the game. I'm a student to the political maneuvering. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to run for office. I curse and drink too much to be a politician. Although that might make me a good one. I don't know. But I didn't know how to access these politicians like when I was a younger person growing up, right? And I didn't, and honestly, where I come from, I didn't really know I could. But now I understand, like as an older man and a person that's been to school for a few years, that like this is what I'm supposed to do. It's my duty. Somebody has to hold these people accountable. And oftentimes, like we just keep reelecting blindly because like it's just the status quo. When we really have to kind of dive into policies and all that stuff. I think somebody told me that politics really controls every part of your life. You know, the street is messed up.
The stoplight is about politics. If you run that stoplight, you get a ticket because a politician somewhere decided that you can't just go through, safety, but the idea is you'll get a ticket, right? So yeah.
Exactly. But you having like a crater and we're in New Orleans, so we got a whole bunch of like messed up roads. Like my car needs alignment every time they get on the street. So like the road hazards that you have, even to that point, that's allocation of city resources right there, and those are done with politics, right? So I remember when I was growing up in Pensacola, where I was, we didn't have a gym, and I played ball or whatever. We didn't have a gym on my side of town. Like you would have to go into town to go play basketball and all of that stuff. And I didn't realize that until I got older. Like we were all out at parks playing or going to the university, but there wasn't like a gym in my community or a recreation program that was in my community. But again, now that I know these things, that's politics.
Mm-hmm. So look, so your brother from Pensacola, Sam Horton, said that only money. And I think I'm insert some, Sam, and if you disagree, let me know. But in today's era of politics, the only thing that's holding many politicians accountable is money. But he also says that as African Americans, as Black folks, and Black folks who can engage and ally with others, we have to find that old school way of working for ourselves.
A organizer from the civil rights era, they hang out, like I got two of them that hang out in my office. And they told me you got power in two ways. You either got organized money or organized people.
Yep.
And that's how you get power in this world. And like those two ways have been tried and true. If you got money or people, you can move some stuff.
And brother Dwight Dabney is saying he wants to make a pushback on the topic of innovation. So I'm waiting to see what he says. So when he pops up, I'll see what he's talking about. And look, folks, it's not that we don't want to.
He probably ain't like your spinner comment.
No. I'm about to say. Dwight cool. He cool with that. Now I want to see what he's saying about innovation, but at some point we will make this to where there can be some live audience feedback, because we're not limited by FCC. We're not in any way gauged by that, but we're working on how much we want to actually do this. So we're trying to test it out. So as y'all are our guinea pigs in our beta testing, I'm loving the feedback, and Jeff, you'll see it when we finish up. But I think the point would be, once again, as I see what he said, Brother Sam says, it's folly to put too much stock in politics. We can't sit back and wait. So look, that's another point, Sam, in terms of how we got here, right? And that's really my point about innovation, is that in many ways, when you think about Reconstruction, when you think about civil rights, when you think about even going all the way back to slavery, and once again, we don't have to re-legislate some of this stuff, but the idea is that we're at a point where we have to recreate the Black community, right? And one of the things, and I'm using a lot of what I do in class, but the foundation of society is the family. So we have to get back to understanding what's going on within our family environment that we can strengthen. And so one example that I'm really being mindful of and watching is what's going on in terms of we're now putting our kids on computers for school, right? But what's missing is the fact that there was a generation in between that computers were a new thing, right? So my daughter basically came out of the womb knowing how to scroll an iPhone.
Yeah.
My mother, I'm still trying to make sure she remembers how to left click versus right click.
Bruh, every Sunday morning at 9 a.m., my father calls me to help him get the live stream from Zion Hope. Every Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And like, I'm walking him through it on the phone every Sunday morning. But like I was talking, like, I love talking to like people, my senior elders, and people that have like been in the movement, right? And one of these gentlemen posed or made a statement to me, because I was talking about a community or whatever, and he said, like, Black people don't have a community no more. All we got is neighborhoods. We ain't got a community.
You know what? That could be thought to be accurate, bro.
Yeah, because he said, look, he said it was poor Black people, right next to rich Black people. My pharmacist lived right across the street. I had a lawyer that was down the block. My doctor was next door to me. And I knew my teacher. So my teacher was living right by me. And if I didn't show up to school, she was gonna knock on the door and tell my mama.
Yeah. She was gonna want to know why he wasn't at school. So something that's
different. Go ahead.
Let's see what Brother Dabney say, because we actually getting short on time. We're not trying to take too much of your time. So Brother Dabney says, with Black people being on the receiving end of everything concerning technology, which I'm gonna say that may not be the exact truth, because brothers and sisters have been doing technology. Think back to Hidden Figures. We just were hidden, right? We weren't always given our due, right? So I'm starting to see that during COVID-19. Social distancing, we're not taking full advantage. The new way of business, interaction with one another. COVID-19 has placed on us a path to virtual reality where we won't interact with anyone at all, and our lives will be lived in a virtual world, a reality where we won't even know the difference between virtual and actual reality. So I get that, and I appreciate that comment, because that's actually what we're attempting to deal with.
But brother, we're consuming.
Well, it's two things. Everybody's a consumer, but everybody can't be a producer, right? So there's the switch, right? And that's one of the things, and Brother Dabney's nailed it. And that's why Brother Dabney, Jeff and I really decided to do this, because a lot of times we sit around and we just being here chilling, right, at somebody's house. And really the point of this is that this is the conversation I believe that most brothers and sisters be having.
Yeah.
See, I'm not going to go to the deficiency model that Black folks just sitting around smoking weed, eating fried chicken and watermelon and all of the other stereotypes. The reality is that we have to move these conversations to a platform where we can be broader in our perspective and our vision. And so what you're saying, Brother Dabney, in regards to how we interact, I'm a psychologist. So I've been able to see folks both virtually, but also in person. Brother Clifton Grady actually just said we do consume, but we have to leverage it to organize and mastermind. So even as what's up?
So I think that, so you said that like everybody consumes, and us as a people, we're super consumers. So because of our consumption, we have built up industry. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, I was trying to buy stock one day, because I was like, I'm trying to get into it, and I was like, well, let me buy stock in stuff that like I partake in. So I was trying to buy stock in Hennessy, and I went to go buy stock in Hennessy, and I was like, yo, this is expensive. It was like 300 and something dollars a share, a few years ago, and I was like, man, this is expensive as hell. And I found out that Hennessy is part of like is owned by another company, and that
Yep.
company is LVMH. So it
Uh-huh.
stands for Louis Vuitton, Moet, and Hennessy.
Hmm.
So if you think about it, like the stuff that we're consuming and building these brands on, they're getting rich. So I understand like what we're saying about what you're saying about consumption, but to me, if we're going to be super consumers, I want us to be super producers.
Well, Jeff, that's exactly how we got here, right? You think about it, and let's be mindful of time, bro. So we're gonna announce that we're gonna run at 9 o'clock. We got 12 minutes.
All
We
right.
got a decent number of people, so we're gonna rock this in 12 minutes and get this done, right? So if you think about it, right, one of the problems that we've had, and brother Sam just made another good point about the idea: how do we switch the focus, right? And so the impact becomes how do we move from just allowing businesses to focus on African Americans as consumers and bringing them more to the forefront as a part of the producing class, right? But one of the things you got to think about is that there's a struggle to move from being a commodity, right? So we sit in New Orleans, which was the port for slavery from around the world. The early stages of slavery and the height of slavery, the most slaves came through the port of New Orleans. So if you think about it, we are inherently changing the intellectual and cognitive and psychological function of African Americans because we were a commodity in this country.
Yeah.
So if we're going to be honest,
We were the product.
yes, we were the product, right? And not that we are still the product, but we are offered up as cattle in that game. And so it's not until we switch that and we have to do this work. So that's a part of why we have to have these conversations. Now, another part is we have to have these conversations with our children earlier.
For real.
Brother Calvin Mackey, shout out to Stem Nola. He says all the time, Peyton Manning didn't get a football when he was 18 years old. LeBron didn't get a basketball when he was 18 years old. They got those things when they were kids. Tiger Woods got clubs. We saw the videos of him. He had the baby clubs when he was a baby. So
Yeah.
we have to cultivate the shift, Sam, as you're saying early on. My daughter, she's a girly girl, and I love it. But all of her toys are not dolls. She has toys that are about being a doctor, Doc McStuffin. She has toys with building blocks, with Legos. She has paint. I have tried to diversify her spectrum of what she sees so that she doesn't feel pigeonholed. And so when we talk about how we got here, it's because for so long, and what did Biggie say? You either what, sell crack rock or you have a wicked jump shot.
Jump shot.
So we have to make sure that our young brothers and sisters understand that we do not fall prey to just using our bodies. And Anthony's just said we have to fully invest in each other. That's a
Look,
future
look,
topic. That's a future topic.
B, it goes back to those three things that we mentioned earlier: access, opportunity, and information.
Well, I'm gonna tip my hand on this one, as Anthony said about being fully invested. We got to remember, what did the Willie Lynch letter do? Right?
Mm.
It pitted one slave, the light skin versus dark skin, old versus young. So we have to actually deal with the fact. Why is
We're
it that?
tearing it down right now. We're tearing
Well,
it down. Me and you.
we got 9 minutes, so let's make sure. Well, we're gonna do 5, 6 episodes, so we got 5 more, right? So
Yeah, for sure, for
let
sure.
let's
Limited series.
yeah, time limited based upon viewership and energy. We'll think about that. And since we get to renew if we want, because we ain't getting paid for this. This is me and you talking, just brothers with degrees, looking for some other folks to come and sit and chill with us, right? But the point being, that's a part of how we got here, is that we don't know how to fully invest. We don't understand the concept, right? One of the hot things that's going on right now, and I'm pretty sure everybody in the Black community is hearing about it, is the susu. Right? Everybody's talking about doing susus. And that's a great idea. The susu is an old African, not Asian, ideal of community support.
Oh yeah,
That, huh?
yeah, for sure.
Right. But the point being is that everybody thinks it's this great idea. But really the susu is the fact that if Jeff came to me with a business venture, I shouldn't be trying to beat him out of it. If he says, hey, I got a good idea, I should be willing to pour into that. And once again, we see the memes all the time. We should be able to what? Sometimes what? Support, encourage, and promote the businesses that we know people on.
But I was about to say, like, pouring into that is in so many different ways, right? Like, so a lot of people think that pouring into that just means financially.
Uh-huh.
Like we have intellectual capital that we can leverage with our friends. You know what I'm saying? So like even in doing this right here, you see so many people using their platforms to speak, and I'm thinking in my head, I got a whole bunch of dope friends. I'm a doctor, you're a doctor, and we know other doctors, and I guess people that are out here,
Lawyers,
yeah,
teachers, firefighters,
and
nurses.
people that are out here in the community like doing it.
Mhm.
So it's almost selfish of us that we've insulated ourselves with all these dope people and that we're not sharing.
So
So
so go back to
this
a
is
point.
sharing.
So go back to the point you made about investing and think about that, right? So one of the things I'm looking into, and it's a brother who started his own chocolate making company, right? I don't want to invest in Nestle.
Right.
They got money. I need to find this brother so that I can make sure he feed his kids and help the community, right? So we got to work it out, right? So Sam, you're right. There's something going on about the mathematics. It's a little bit too sketchy at times. So yeah, but the point would be if somebody's going to invest in a susu, i.e., invest in the community, you got to look at it and go to it, right?
Yeah,
So
for
how you handle that, right? So look, man, one of the things that we come to a point about this is the understanding of like how did we get here? And once again, we don't have to use the past in any way, shape, or form as an anchor. We can pick up that anchor of history. And one of the things that we have to do specifically as we think about once again, brothers with degrees, and look, my intelligence, my knowledge, my experiences are not always in classrooms. So none of what we do, yeah, Ursula. Oh yeah, look, Ursula jumped on for real. Shout out to Ursula Roshan. That's some dope artwork. I can't show the whole wall because I don't want to move and mess up the backdrop. But Ursula Roshan, dope artist. Check her out.
Tell Ursula I need some work too, man. I got empty walls in the crib.
Ursula, she's listening, bro. So Ursula, there's a lot of work for you, New Orleans. You need to come back home. Oh yeah. Also, look, mad shout out. I'm gonna say this because I told her something wait to call her, but her husband passed, well, ex-husband or whatever. I don't know because I ain't checked, but for a while now we've been close, and I need to call and check on her because she had a death in her family. So much love to her and her family in this time of mourning. Um, but one of the things, and that's the point, right? Even with Ursula, me and Ursula been rocking, and we've been doing this. So she do stuff for me. I've done stuff for her with friends, with family, much love. But that's the point, right? And really, Jeff, the reason why we do this, come back to our point, is that we want to move this conversation from just in our back rooms, right? We got
Right.
to start, as we say now, we got to put that pressure. We got to move the pressure.
This is what we're supposed to be doing. Like, so we're supposed to be sharing the infrastructure that we've created.
Yeah,
um, because for me and for you too, like we've built these phenomenal support systems that have anchored us in times of trouble and strife, um, and have actually motivated us to succeed and do relatively well. So like these conversations that we're having, these are the conversations that me and you have been having since like I was in college. Um,
2000.
Huh?
That's 2008.
Yeah, it's been a minute. So, these are the conversations that really reframed how I thought about life.
Yeah,
Um, and I think that so many more people could benefit from just interacting and talking. And like, we ain't gotta have all the answers. And I don't think we will, but we'll never find any answers if we don't get out there and engage.
yeah.
And I think that that's what, when we tie back to like, not how do we get here, but where do we go from here? We have to be willing to engage with one another. We have to be willing to say, all right, I don't know this and I need you to teach me. And we also have to be willing partners to teach people, right? Like you told me a long time ago, and I don't know if you even remember this, but you told me that you don't get a doctorate degree for you. You get a
Right.
doctorate degree for everybody that you can help.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. Because having one of those maybe gets you access into a room that you or somebody that doesn't have one that didn't have access to it before. You know what I'm saying? So we're here to provide access. I always tell people that I want to be that bridge. I think that like when you get these PhDs and all that stuff that be talking to one another, they talk to each other on a level to where like just regular folks just can't understand it. Um,
Uh-huh.
and I'm a regular folk that understands it, and I want to be able to translate it and break it down for everybody else.
Word. So look, bro, we got 2 minutes. We done had great viewership. Um, Miss Sister Banks and others, Fente, Weaver has said that sound like we're laying the groundwork. So we want to say that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
We're trying to create an agenda, but we not gonna do this just ourselves. Jeff and Brian not gonna do this. So that's the point.
We work too heavy to do just ourselves.
Well, exactly. What we're asking to do is it's time for us to have real conversations. And the point of the brothers with degrees, and like I said, that's loosely. It ain't meant that you gotta have went to college or the school to get it, because I done learned a lot of stuff from homies on the corner and some people that ain't never ever wanted to sit in the classroom. But the point is that we're at a point
I
where,
know.
huh?
Some of the smartest people I know.
Word. So we're at a point where we decided to just do this. Our schedule is gonna be about every 2 weeks, unless something come up and we busy. But every 2 weeks we're gonna do this. We're gonna do all the marketing and PR. Another part is right now, definitely we ain't worried about no money. When we get an opportunity to move it to another platform, we'll do it. But we saw it just happen to Nick Cannon, so we ain't falling for the banana in the tailpipe. I'm not gonna fall for the banana in the tailpipe, right?
Hey,
So, so the point is this, folks. Y'all family. This is a family discussion that we have to use to take to the next level.
for
What
sure.
that is, what that means is whatever position, whatever place you're in, make sure the conversations you're having are moving us forward. It's time out for the conversations about just social media and celebrities and I'm sorry, Kanye. Stop talking about Kanye, yo.
Hey
It's
man, look, I tell everybody um, that I don't. I often like have a tough time because I don't want to talk about simple anymore. Andre
no,
3000 said, "I want to talk about time traveling, rhyme javelin, something mind unraveling."
yeah,
And
yeah,
like I think that's the state of consciousness that we need to be in to get to that Elroy Jetson type level.
right. So let's be honest, bro. Um, at this point in time, this is about taking our consciousness to the other level. Right? This is both for you and I as we push each other as we always have. We also have to ask anybody watching and listening that we go ahead and take it to the next level. That neck on George Floyd's neck, on that knee on George Floyd's neck is a euphemism, is a symbolism of what we've been enduring. And it's time for us to get up. And as that old picture says, that sometimes we have to realize that if we just stand up and stop walking around with our backs bent, we'll upset the game.
All
And
we
it's
gotta
time.
do is stand up.
All we got to do is stand up and walk straight. What I want to say lastly for me, um, a luta continua. Keep the fight. Keep up the fight. Continue to fight. That was a rallying cry for a civil war, and we have to continue to fight. So brother Jeff, I've enjoyed this time. Um, what you got? Where you at?
Look, I'm reminded of a quote that Kismet used to tell us all the time, and it says, "A candle loses nothing by lighting another candle." Um, I encourage you all to take that mantra with you as you move about society and at your workplace. Remember that you lose nothing by lighting another person. So I thank you for coming out. I appreciate the engagement and viewership. Like Brian said, we'll be back 2 weeks.
Sister Erica Houston said something. She said, change where we put our money and then things will change. And that goes back to old civil rights saying,
That's real.
they won't hire you, then don't spend your money. What did they actually mean? It just came to me. If they don't spend your money where they won't hire you, I think that's a better way that it was put, right? So yes, let's light some more candles. Take your candle, take your knowledge, take your information, take your access, take your opportunity. Light the candle for somebody else. So I think, Jeff, what we say is this: as with all good parties, they must come to an end. We thank y'all for kicking it with us. We ask that you cherish this space, because the reality is that a Black man's mind is sometimes a very dark and sacred place. But with the help of all of y'all, it can be a very illuminated and lighted place where things can grow. Remember, Black men do think. So we'll see you next time. Be willing, be able, and we're gonna make sure and tell y'all next time we're doing this so y'all could be ready. So we popped off and we wanted to see what went on. So look, Jeff, tell them, what's the last line we say?
Thank you for coming out. God bless and good night.
Bring yourself and we'll bring the discussion. Thank y'all.